welcome to the SI Sooners podcast. You know what? It is our 50th episode. So Ryan and I are going to celebrate by talking softball for the next 30 minutes. Just kidding. Hey, we'll definitely fly over the Fighting Patty Gassos for a quick peek from kind of 30,000 feet. But no, Ryan, it's tournament time. We're smack dab in the middle of one right now. We're taping this between two games, so some of it's going to be outdated. Some of it just happened last night. Some of it's going to happen in a couple hours, so hang with us. If you're tired of basketball, skip forward, skip backward, I don't care. We got basketball to talk about because Big 12 is back in Kansas City. The Big 12 tournament is going on. Selection Sunday is coming up this weekend, and yes, it's true. Today is not Wednesday. Forgive me. Today is Thursday. You might think we're a day late on this podcast, but you know what? The truth is this. Ryan, this is a very special Thursday edition of the SI Sooners podcast, Ryan.
We love big Thursdays around here, John. And look, with everything that's gone on in the entire world over the past year, and by year we mean year to a day, I think it's okay to do a special edition Thursday episode because we want to pack in all this tournament talk that we can.
That's Ryan Chapman in Norman. I'm John Hoover. I'm in Tulsa. Thank you once again for listening to the SI Sooners podcast, and thanks y'all for watching on my YouTube channel. SI Sooners, as you know, is a Fan Nation affiliate, part of the Sports Illustrated network. SI Sooners, allsooners.com. That's our website. Actually, there's nothing special about today's podcast being on Thursday. We've just been busy as heck. We have been busy as heck. Ryan, for instance, just got back from getting vaccinated today. Meanwhile, I'm going on like 13 weeks. I've been registered and not a word, not a whisper. I'm seeing all these people on my Facebook feed. I got my vaccine. Look at me. I got my little card. Good. Good job. Good for you. Congratulations. My wife, for instance, was against it. She said, I don't want to get vaccinated. She's one of those ones that's kind of immunocompromised a little bit. She got a little asthma going on, so it's not too bad. But she's like, I'm not going to register. I'm not in any hurry. I don't care. She put it off. She was scared. I don't know, government tracker. And then all of a sudden, she just kind of on a whim from one of her coworkers, she gets registered, and like 2 days later, she's got vaccinated. Man, I'm like, what? Here. Meanwhile, I'm hunkered down. I've got my mask on. I'm in phase 4, which means, hey, dude, sorry, you're old. You're not essential. You're a sports writer. You can get COVID, and we don't really care. Right? Right? Okay, Ryan, congratulations on getting vaccinated. You had to drive a little bit to do it, but enough with the needles. We got to give the people what they want. I just had to get that off my chest. Let's talk some basketball. For God's sake, I know on this podcast, we almost always save basketball for the final segment, and we do got a buttload of football to get to, don't get me wrong, of course, but you're not going to want to miss what we've got cooked up football-wise, trust me. But, guys, it is the postseason. It is March Madness. It is here, and I'm going to ask Ryan like a million quick questions, and we're going to see if he can answer all of them before the first break. First off, Ryan, OU was number 7 in the nation, then they lost 4 in a row, fell to number 7 in the Big 12. Crazy. They beat Iowa State last night in the first round of the Big 12 tournament. Same exact MO as we've seen the last month or so, which is get a big lead. This one was 19 points. Give it all back. They got within 4, Iowa State did. But then you hold on at the end, and like Lon Kruger said last night, you get a win. Hey, you stop the losing streak, you get a win. They gave Iowa State's season the mercy killing that they've wanted for about the last 2 months. I mean, Iowa State, how does Iowa State win 2 games the entire season, 0-18 in Big 12 play? I don't know if that's ever happened before. Ryan, tonight, OU gets Kansas. KU is out their big man, is without their big man, David McCormick, and one of their backups is out, Tristan Anaruna, I think you pronounce his name. Let's start there. OU split the series with KU. Probably should have won in Lawrence. Do the Sooners win tonight?
John, the way that they've played the last 2 or 3 weeks would lend you to say no, but I think Oklahoma is one of the most desperate teams coming to this Big 12 tournament. Kansas, are they playing their best ball of the year? Absolutely, but they righted the ship after Oklahoma beat them in Norman and knocked them out of the AP Top 25 for the first time in 12 years. Kansas has nothing to prove. Like, they're probably going to be a 2 seed regardless of what happens in the Big 12 tournament, and they're just playing for what region they get dropped into. Maybe they get bumped around to a 3 and shuffled around, depending on what happens around the country, but I like the Sooners tonight. Call me crazy. And yes, they gave all that lead away against Iowa State, but the big thing that they did that they haven't done over the last couple of weeks is they got the entire bench involved, John. Lon Kruger figured out, he went back to playing all the right notes as far as how to match up Jalen Hill and Kirkweth and Alondis Williams and Elijah Harkless, how to make that rotation work. Davion Harmon got them cooking early on, and as a result, 8 Sooners touched the floor against Iowa State, John. 8 of them scored. 7 of the 8, Emoja Gibson was the one guy who didn't make more than one bucket. So that's a balanced attack, a balanced effort. That's exactly what we saw Oklahoma do to the Jayhawks in Norman. By the way, they took McCormick out of that game, made him a non-factor. Tonight, they don't have to do that. They just have to make Mitch Lightfoot a non-factor and deal with the guard. So I really, call me crazy, I like the Sooners this evening in the T-Mobile Arena, not the Sprint Center, my bad, in the T-Mobile Arena against the Jayhawks.
Austin Reeves finished strong last night, but he kind of hadn't lately, leading up to last night. Is he playing too many minutes, Ryan? Did the bench contributions last night take some of that load off of him, allow him to be fresher down the stretch?
Yeah, I really think so. And the winning formula for Oklahoma had been, you wrote about this, John, allsooners.com, a great piece, and that's what you need to look out for tonight against the Jayhawks. But the winning formula has been Davion Harmon. It has his patented quick starts. It happened against Kansas and Norman when Oklahoma won. Davion Harmon finished with 22. Vast majority of those points came in the first half. It let Austin Reeves kind of work his way into the game, and then he can be the closer. The thing is, when you have that bench that's rolling, you don't feel like you need Reeves to immediately jump back into the game after you put him down on the bench just to rest for a little bit. So I really think that's a factor, John. The legs, they were there last night, and Reeves came up clutch. He stymied the Iowa State run, kind of extended the lead back, and made it to where, yeah, it's not as polished a win as you like, but you weren't really fearing that Oklahoma was going to lose over the course of that last 2 or 3 minutes. And I just think it's no coincidence that the bench gets rolling, and on the same night that happens, Austin Reeves returns to the guy that we saw in January who was able to close out games for Oklahoma.
Okay, does Kirkweth need to play more minutes for OU? In general, I mean, does he need to play more minutes? Or tonight specifically with McCormick out, is there any need for him on the floor?
Yeah, I think Kirkweth is just going to be a matchup-dependent guy, John, because some people might say, well, even if Oklahoma's playing a small team, you should put the big guys out there and make their opponent adjust to you. But Kirkweth he's not a dominant offensive player, John. He's got the great dunks, and he kind of has a feel for how to get that involved, but that's more on the guards and the offense around him moving. He's not really a shot creator. He's shown, this trend started in Lawrence, that he's willing to take a 3 or 2. He has a really nice stroke, but he's just not a great shooter, John. So tonight against the Jayhawks specifically, with McCormick out, I don't see a huge need for Kirkweth. Now, obviously, if you get into that game and the Sooners are just getting used and abused in the paint, if those Kansas guards are able to penetrate and the on-ball defense isn't working, yeah, throw Kirkweth in there, add that little bit of rim protection. Alondis Williams told us after the Texas game, you could feel that difference knowing that you had some rim protection behind you. So I don't see Kirkweth being a huge factor in this game. Against Kansas, Brady Manick and Jalen Hill have to be the 2 bigs that do the damage, because that's the kind of matchup. Kansas doesn't have anyone that's just massively oversized, when we talk about Texas. Texas has 3 or 4 of those guys. So I think Kirkweth's going to be matchup driven, but with that being said, John, it also doesn't need to be a situation where he logs no minutes, because he does bring some value to this lineup, even if you're not playing a team with some really star-studded bigs.
Yeah, I like Kirkweth on the floor. Energy, high energy, protects the rim. I mean, good luck getting a shot off against that dude. And then if you want offense out of him, just throw it to the ceiling. Just throw it up there. We saw last night 2 balls he had no business getting to, and they both went in the basket. Guy's unbelievable on the lob. Now, Austin Reeves made first team all Big 12, Ryan, and Davion Harmon got a little bit snubbed when he only made honorable mention. I mean, I kind of get that. This conference is just so stacked, right? But then you look at the all-defensive team, and you and I talked about this. Well, he's going to be on this team. The all-newcomer team, you and I talked about this. He's going to be on this team, right? He's going to be on one of those 2 teams for sure. No, Elijah Harkless got snubbed by the Big 12 conference coaches on both of those teams. Not defensive, not newcomer. I don't get it. The kid is one of the elite defenders in the country. He looks like somebody that used to play for Eddie Sutton back in the 2000s, late 90s. That's how good he plays defense. Big 12 coaches who have to play against him every night don't reward him. So, Ryan, my question is this. Was his performance last night against Iowa State Elijah Harkless's way of saying, you don't like me, huh? Well, watch this.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, in the days of COVID, it's much harder we can't be face-to-face with the athletes and really get to know the guys. But Elijah Harkless has always come off as one of those guys that is supremely confident in himself and his abilities. He's not like overconfident or arrogant or anything like that, but he just matter-of-factly will tell you, yeah, I was a team player who wanted to lock in and play defense, and as a result of that, I didn't get as highly recruited as maybe I feel like I should be, things like that. He's the first one to say that he believes this team can beat anyone in the country. Like, he's a supremely confident individual. So, we informally were kind of having discussions. We were going back and forth for newcomer of the year, not just the all newcomer team, but newcomer of the year. Obviously, Max McClung at Texas Tech. He's amazing. He scores the points, all that stuff. That's going to be the flashy pick. But we were saying, can Elijah Harkless backdoor his way in there? Because the Sooners, absolutely, their destiny to this season changed when he gained his eligibility. They went from a team that was up and down, you're worried about what they're going to do, to a team that can reel off top 15 after top 15 victory. So I really feel like Elijah Harkless understood that snub, and he's one of those guys that is going to go out there and say, screw you guys, I'm just going to go ball out, and I'll try to get in a low-key running for a quadruple double if things get a little frisky here and you go to an overtime period or something like that. So I think that was absolutely a channeled response from Harkless.
Yeah, that dude, he plays old school defense. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. And you're right, team player all the way. Gives up the glory for his teammates to get down on the floor. He's toughness. And you're 100% right. When he got into the lineup, when he got eligible from that transfer, that NCAA waiver, it changed OU season. They suddenly started playing. It's amazing what one guy can do for an entire team's defensive mindset. Last one, Ryan. You brushed upon this earlier, but I want to get a little deeper into it. What seed will Oklahoma get in the big dance when this tournament's all said and done?
I would say you're probably looking at a 6 seed from Oklahoma, unless there's just some wild stuff that happens across the country. Most of the conference tournaments, it's causing some uncertainty at the top end, but I think those 5, 6, 7 seeds are pretty much set. So I'd say the Sooners are going to get a 6 seed unless the caveat is if they can beat Kansas and then beat either Texas Tech for the first time or get that 2-1 advantage over the Texas Longhorns and make it into a Big 12 championship game, not win the Big 12 championship game, but make it. I think that might be the only thing that could knock them up a peg, just because we've talked about all the quadrant 1 wins, losses, all that stuff. Xavier getting beat and probably as a result being one of the first 4 teams out of the tournament, that'll be the big thing that hurts Oklahoma, just because that's their one non-conference, like, look at this game, this is what matters, and they just got the doors blown off of them. So I think if they could somehow beat Kansas and then beat either Texas or Texas Tech, they could vault back up to a 5 seed, but otherwise, like, I'd have them sitting on that 6 line.
Up next on the SI Sooners podcast, last week we started 2 new football series at SI Sooners. If you missed them, well, we're going to dive in and we're going to preview what's coming up. Hey, listen up. Spring is here, but you know the seasons in Oklahoma. Hot one day, cold the next. That's a lot of work for your heating and air unit, but the guys at Trade Pros got you covered. Sign up for one of their no-hassle service plans. They'll come out twice a year and tune up your AC and your furnace, and you get priority scheduling and discounts. Just call Chris at Trade Pros, 405-316-0598. That's 405-316-0598. Or go to TradeProsOKC.com. Hey, are you a business owner looking to get your product out there to the masses? Let's say you run a hotel in Norman or a car dealership in Oklahoma City or a restaurant in Edmond. Or maybe you're a small online business who creates and sells OU merchandise and you just want Sooner Nation to come sample your wares. Well, then consider advertising in this space right here on the SI Sooners podcast. SI Sooners reaches thousands of readers, viewers, and listeners literally every day. And the SI Sooners podcast is the ideal place to find your next customer. To advertise, send an email to allsoonersi@gmail.com or DM us on Twitter at all_Sooners. do some social media. Follow SI Sooners on Twitter at @all_Sooners. Find Ryan, of course, at Radios Ryan, and I'm always at John E. Hoover. Hit us up. Some of our DMs are open, some are not. Just hit us up. Check it out. It's fun. Our website, allsooners.com. We are a Fan Nation affiliate, of course, part of the Sports Illustrated Network. All of our content for now is free. Working on some stuff where that might not be the case in the future. So hop on there now. No memberships, no subscriptions, and, of course, no credit cards. Just click and enjoy. Find the video version of this podcast on my YouTube channel. That's free for now. John Hoover Media. And remember to please subscribe to that other channel. I've got 2 channels. This one's going away if you're watching on the first one. The second one is the one you need to subscribe to so we can get those numbers up so the first one can go away. Need your help. I do. I need your help. Subscribe. Anyway, Ryan, you made 2 rather big announcements since our last podcast, I guess. Spring practice starts March 22nd. Wow. Okay, good. Later than usual, but, it is what it is. And then the spring game is going to be on April 24th. So they're going to practice straight through. Now, Pro Day is tomorrow. That's right, tomorrow. And that's all going to be online this year. We, unfortunately, will not be bringing you all those unique photos and videos and insights that we did last year. Guys, that was actually my very, very, very first live event to cover for SI Sooners. My very first live event. And then, of course, it was my last live event for like 6 months, right? But yeah, I joined SI Sooners and I'm like, I can't wait to get started. And then boom, I go cover Pro Day. And I get home, and my wife is watching some stupid Kevin Costner movie. I'm like, where's the Thunder game? She goes, oh, you didn't hear? The Thunder and the Jazz got canceled. Can't do that. That was 1 year ago today. So, Pro Day this year, man, it's all going to be virtual. It's all going to be online. Sooner Sports TV, I guess, is taking care of us. But we're still going to have a ton of content for you on Pro Day, so check that out, allsooners.com. Ryan, back to my original thought. Every other day leading up to the start of spring practice here, we've been previewing a different OU position, depth chart, whatever you want to call it, roster. We're looking at each position, breaking it down. So far, we've had on O-line, D-line, H-backs, and today's is on linebackers. So you can read along with us if you want to at allsooners.com while you listen to the podcast, of course. Ryan, real quick, let's go over those positions, okay? What's the biggest question that you have on the offensive line?
Oh, it's got to be who your starting tackles are, both at left and right tackle. Eric Swinson, is he going to somehow, again, hold on to that job after it feels like everyone's pushing for it? Are we going to see Wanye Morris come in and make that instant impact? If that happens, are we going to see Anton Harrison kick back over to the right where he played more in high school? All of that stuff, John, I think the unit that is underachieved the most the past 2 seasons compared to our expectations has been the offensive line, and I think the tackles are going to have a lot to do with that this season, because once you get the tackles sorted out, I think it kind of builds itself back in. You've got experience at the guard position that you're okay with throwing back out there if someone else doesn't come on. If an Andrew Rame comes out there and wows everybody, that's just an upgrade. So I think the biggest thing for that offensive line is going to be, who are your tackles? Who are those tackles going to be on either side? And how quickly can everyone get back up to speed going into the next season?
I think the tackles are so strong. I think exactly the opposite. I think the tackle's going to be one of the strongest positions on the team. And so no concern. Now there's some questions who it's going to be, but I think whoever it's going to be is going to be very good. I really do. I think the biggest question on the offensive line is center. And I really think that is going to be Andrew Rame that emerges at that. I talked to his high school coach and he said that he's 100% confident that he's going to be starting at center for the Sooners this year. David Alexander knows what he's talking about. And then some related content off of center. I think Chris Murray, who is going to be competing for that job, I think he continues to rotate at guard. Probably left, probably right. I'm not sure. He gets in there with those 2 good established starters. But if anything happens to Rame, I think he backs up the center position. I think tackle's going to be so stacked with guys like Morris and Swinson, and you left out Stacey Wilkins to go with Anton Harrison. I think all 4 of those dudes have been talked up by the coaches. They've played well when they've gotten in there. They've shown out. And yes, Swinson, by the way, is coming back for his 6th year in 2021. I had that confirmed from a source last week. Okay, Ryan, question number 2. Who's going to make a move on the defensive line this year that maybe we did not see coming?
Yeah, that's the tough one, because I really think you can look at this just crop of new recruits who actually fit what Alex Grinch wants to do to come on in. I might cheat a little bit here, John, so bear with me, but that rush in position, hard to classify that as defensive end, linebacker, the way it's kind of used, but like I love what I saw to Clayton Smith in this recruiting class. I think that he could be a guy to come in, make some moves, but I also think Jordan Kelly, he's an interesting guy at that tackle position on the defensive line. When you talk about Perrin Winfrey, Josh Ellis, and stuff like that, like they obviously were the guys that they brought a great intensity. They didn't always have the production that you might want as far as tackles, things like that. But they were a key piece to that defense. I really liked how everyone else came along, though. So I think that Jordan Kelly there on the interior, John, can also be another guy that's in that defensive line rotation so that it is a relentless rotation of impact players across the defensive front, which is just crazy to think about where this line and this unit was 2-3 years ago to now we can just kind of dive in and say, yeah, they're 2, 3, 4 deep at impactful players across that unit.
Yeah, I agree with you on Jordan Kelly. I think he could have a bright future, but it's going to be tough. This is a tough position. I mean, Ronnie Perkins is back. I think Isaiah Thomas slides out and plays that spot. I think Winfrey and Ellison and Kelly hold down the things at nose guard, and I think Stokes and Redmond are the tackles. They're both good. You're right. They're gonna play like 2 plays and then get to the sideline and bring in the fresh guys, maybe 3 plays. Try to get a 3 and out. The question I have at this point is Isaiah Coe, the transfer, newcomer this year, is he ready to step into that rotation somewhere in the middle? We'll see. H-back Ryan, maybe the most competitive spot on the entire team. That and offensive tackle, in my opinion. So, and outside linebacker is awful good, and defensive line's really good, but receiver's not bad. Quarterback's pretty good, but most competitive on the team, I think it's H-back. And I don't see any real surprises coming this spring. I don't think anything's going to shake out this spring. And that's a commentary maybe on how ready Shane Beamer and Lincoln Riley have gotten these guys in their careers. 4 guys who could start at the position and start at any number of positions that OU calls the H-back. What do you think? Does Mikey Henderson stay in that role? We saw him carry the football like a running back last year, really. Does Lincoln Riley maybe expand that role for him?
Yeah, I think the best bet for Mikey Henderson is seeing some sort of expansion. I don't think he's just going to get straight up dropped into the running back room. I think they like the utility that he brings, but the thing is, the thing that kept him off the field last year is that Jeremiah Hall is an incredible blocker for this Oklahoma team in the run game and both the pass game. And Mikey Henderson is not up to that caliber at all. Now, that's not really a huge knock on him. Coming in as a freshman, you're not expected to pick that stuff up immediately. That comes with the nuance of learning the offense, diagnosing defenses, things like that. But I do believe Lincoln Riley will use him more in that run games just because every time he touched the ball, he's one of those guys that you felt like something awesome is just going to happen when the ball's in his hand, even if it's a 3-yard gain or if he does get out around the end and finds the open field. I think that they're going to have to use him like that, though, because we just won't know until he's out there. We can't be at practice, can't see all that stuff to know how the blocking side of his game is coming along. But he's too gifted a playmaker to not have some sort of expansion of his role in that run game and some passing stuff out of the backfield.
And then today's storyline is on the linebackers. Lion, I could call you Lion. That'd be like a pet name. Come here, Lion. Need you to transcribe these quotes and shoot this video. When the depth chart, Ryan says linebacker, I put it down as a linebacker. Listen, I know Nick Bonito is basically a stand-up defensive end, and he's really good at it, but by God, his bio says he's a rush linebacker, so that position, I know that position is coached by Jamar Cain, and the actual linebackers are coached by Brian Odom, my homie from Ada, Brian Odom. But when the roster says linebacker, I'm including Nick Bonito as a linebacker. So he's in that group. That said, Ryan, this position also seems insanely deep and is stacked with talent, inside and outside. What's your biggest concern about the OU linebacker room, you think?
Yeah, John, honestly, the linebacker room might just be the OU rowing team with as many oars that are going to be on that depth chart when it comes out. My biggest concern would be outside of Nick Bonito, you are stacked with talent, absolutely. You feel like you have that depth, great, but you need someone to take that step forward and be transcendent. I don't think the linebacker was like a weakness to this defense, but if the defense wants to go from really good and on that fringe of elite to one of the best in the country. I think that they need someone to take that step forward. Is it going to be Brian Asamoah? Is it going to be David Ugwoegbu? They've got that athletic profile to step forward and enter that Kenneth Murray realm of impact all over the field. Who knows? It could be a Deshaun White. It could be one of the new guys coming in. Shane Witter was thrown out there in the Cotton Bowl. It seems like he has the mind for the game. I thought that Alex Grinch was pinning a note to his long-lost child when he talked about Danny Stutzman during National Signing Day, how much he loves that dude. He's going to get some run. So it'll be interesting to see because there's a ton of competition there. My biggest concern would just be if you have a generally anonymous rotation and you're not saying, okay, Brian Asamoah, he's that dude. He's got to be on the field because he can take this defense that extra step forward into the realm of the elite.
To me, Asamoah and Ugwoegbu look like they're going to be reunited in the Pro Bowl in like 2025. Those guys look like NFL Pro Bowl linebackers. They're so athletic, so fast, so aggressive. But my big question mark for this group is Caleb Kelly. I want to see that kid have a big year. I want to see it as bad as I've ever wanted any college football player to succeed, Ryan. Probably since Ryan Reynolds. He's just a guy that's just got such a raw deal injury-wise. And talking to him over the years, he's just such a good dude. You have to root for him. I hope he can get back on the field and kind of go out on top, make some plays, maybe get a little money at the next level. We'll see. That does it for the stories that we've written on SI Sooners, allsooners.com. We've got more position previews coming over the next, 11 days or so? Check that out, allsooners.com. Up next on the SI Sooners podcast, we've got some unique and pretty incredible insight for you on the NFL draft. We'll tell you about it next. Guys, NFL draft season is upon us, and we've got some NFL draft talk coming up in the next segment. But if you're feeling a draft and you think things might be getting a little hairy downstairs, well, our partners at Manscaped are the leaders in the below-the-waist grooming department. For all my draftnicks out there, we've got an exclusive 20% off promo code SOON at manscaped.com. That's right, the promo code is SOON, S-O-O-N, 20% off, plus free shipping. The Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer, I'm telling you guys, it features their ceramic blade. They've got skin-safe technology, so say goodbye to any nicks and snags and cuts and stuff like that. Very unpleasant, as I told you last time, very uncomfortable. This baby will make you comfortable. Trust me. Also comes with a little LED light. I love that thing. And the Weed Whacker is really the ideal tool for any upstairs type situations you got going on. Manscaped's patented nose and ear hair trimmer. It's the best tool for the job. I also use the Crop Preserver and the Crop Reviver. I got their boxer briefs too. Again, the best I've ever worn. I'm serious about that. They're just so comfortable. And I got their travel bag as well. Just look for the performance package when you go to order, Ryan, on manscaped.com.
Yeah, they hooked us up with a performance package, and it's honestly all I could ever need, John. Manscaped is the best when it comes to below-the-belt grooming, but that's not all. They've got, like you said, John, they've got the comfortable T-shirts, they've got the boxer briefs. The thing that I really like, though, John, is so I went on, I couldn't just be content with the performance package. I ordered some of the Manscaped cologne, and let me tell you, the ladies in my life have been very happy ever since I have adopted that. It's phenomenal, just like everything else that Manscaped has. And the big thing, John, on that Lawnmower 3.0 is you mentioned the skin safe technology, you mentioned the light, all that. Guess what? That whole thing, it's waterproof, it hums, it works like a charm. It takes what used to take a long time, very delicate job. It's done just like that. So everything you need, everything you could ever want to make sure everything's in check below the belt, they've got it here at Manscaped, and we're just very fortunate to have that hookup.
Now, for a limited time, okay, Manscaped subscribers can get not one, but two free gifts. One is the Shed travel bag. That's a $39 value, and those patented high-performance, anti-chafing Manscaped boxer briefs. That's the other one. Get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code SOON at manscaped.com. That's 20% off, free shipping, manscaped.com. Use the promo code SOON. Final segment of the SI Sooners podcast. Ryan, we mentioned it last segment. The spring game, April 24th, which is also, this is interesting to me, also the date that Texas has their spring game, also the date that Texas A&M has their spring game, and also the date that Oklahoma State has their spring game. Okay, so real quick, remember, this is the year the pandemic has shut down recruiting, so there's no in-person recruiting, no on-campus recruiting through at least May 31st. That's what the NCAA has said, dead period, right? So what that means for now, it's kind of amazing, actually. Prospects who are considering going to these schools for their spring game, their spring scrimmage, red-white game, whatever you want to call it, those 4 schools, OU, OSU, Texas, Texas A&M, for instance, kids are going to have to choose who they want to go visit, and they're going to miss the others. There's no like, oh, I'll go see them next week, or I'll go see them week before. No. You get one shot if you're considering any of those 4 schools. So no big deal, right? Life is full of choices, other than the fact that there are no official visits this year. And if a kid decides to go on an unofficial, he's paying his own way. I mean, you always pay your own way on an unofficial, but I'm just telling you, man, it's going to get interesting to see which guys, Ryan, choose which schools.
Yeah, and that'll be, what we're going to have to be tracking. That'll be part of it. I guess if you're an Oklahoma fan, you just hope that OU reprises their trend of booking a great musical act, even though there's only going to be 25% fans there, and just hope that you can put on the best show with the limited capacity, things like that. I do kind of wonder, though, John, that this is obviously something that's generally a massive deal. Lincoln Riley has wanted to make the spring game be the recruiting event on the calendar, but this year, OU is going to have that benefit of, I really feel like no matter what happens, OU Nebraska is going to be a night game. The networks are going to want that just as a marquee game to throw out there early, even if it's not that great of a game on the field. The atmosphere in the stadium, as the first time the stadium will be at full capacity, or maybe the second time, but either way, and it's the first time they're welcoming Nebraska back to Norman in how many years? Like, it's going to be electric in that stadium. I think it almost might play into the Sooners' favor to make that their big recruiting weekend if they can, once students or high school athletes are allowed back on campus. So, yeah, they're going to have these decisions in the spring, but I think Oklahoma, even if you don't get those unofficial visitors here in the spring, the way that their fall schedule sets up, the way that they're going to have opportunities to really wow these kids during the year when they know the stadium's going to be full and rocking, like, maybe I'm just not as worried about it because they seem to be knocking the virtual visits out of the park anyway.
So today's March 11th, 1 year since the big pandemic sports shutdown. March 9th of last year, we were at a Lincoln Riley press conference previewing spring practice, March 9th. And I remember one of the last questions, at about the 33-minute mark maybe, Lincoln got out of 35 minutes, Lincoln got a question. Something along the lines of, Lincoln, have you thought about how the coronavirus might impact your attendance at the spring game? Yeah, we're not going, it wasn't even, it was March 9th and there was no shutdown. It wasn't even really a serious consideration. There was some discussion about it, but man, America was still America back then. It was a different time. It's weird how much things have changed in just that little short time, one whole year. Ryan, we need to tell the folks about our new NFL draft feature. Once a week, we break down one of the OU draft prospects for 2021. We do it every Thursday, and we call it Thursdays with Mora. Yeah, Jim Mora Jr., the former NFL head coach, former college head coach. He's with SI now. He's still with ESPN, but he's helping out SI with the draft stuff. He stopped by with me and Ryan, and every Thursday, we ask him questions and he pulls apart what he likes about each guy. It's a video that runs with the story. So you got me and Ryan interviewing Jim Mora on the videos, and he's speaking his mind and he's telling the truth. So check it out. He gives his honest draft evals, talks about a guy's strengths and weaknesses, maybe where he thinks they'll go in the draft. He's really good. I was really impressed with his delivery so far. So last week we opened up with Creed Humphrey. Today, Thursday, we dove into Ronnie Perkins. Next week, it's Ramondre Stevenson, and so on and so forth. We're going to get to everybody every Thursday now, okay? Thursdays with Mora. And yes, I stole the name from Tuesdays with Maury. You remember the old Mitch Albom book that became a TV series? I know. Only Thursdays with Mora is not going to make you all sad and weepy. Thursdays with Mora gets you fired up for the NFL draft, y'all. Ryan, what did you make of Coach Mora's evaluations of Creed and Ronnie?
Yeah, I really liked what he had to say about Creed because around Norman, the conversation around Creed Humphrey has been, this is a first-round talent since the minute he stepped on the field as a redshirt freshman. But when you break down the reality of what the center position is, things like that, he's sliding to day 2, second, third round in some people's projections. And so it can be understandable, I guess, if you're looking at it going, what the heck happened with Creed? And Jim Mora came in and basically said, look, Creed is going to be a very solid player in the NFL for a long time. He really believes that it's the center position. It's not one of the most glamorous positions. You're not going out there and paying $100 million to a center over the next 5 years, things like that. Like, don't hit the panic button, Ryan. Step back off the ledge. So Jim Moore, he was great in that sense. Then Ronnie Perkins, it was just so interesting. He was talking about just Ronnie Perkins' production on the field, the different things you could do with him. And I thought the really interesting thing that he talked about is one thing that teams are going to notice is not just that he gets to the quarterback, not just the impact he has rushing the passer, but how violent he is at the point of attack when he hits that quarterback. I think we all think back to Bedlam when Ronnie Perkins basically ragdolled Spencer Sanders in front of the entire world, turns to the Cowboys sideline and says, somebody do something about it, and everyone wilted. Like, that's the kind of guy Jim Moore is saying that you want on any defensive line, on any football team in the NFL. And so I think that was really interesting because I guess I just hadn't thought about that. Like, you look at the sack numbers, you look at the production, we're so caught up in, is he going to be a 4-3 end? Is he going to be a 3-4 outside linebacker? All that stuff. Jim Moore basically said, that doesn't matter. Whoever drafts him is going to have a clear plan for success. And he thinks that Ronnie Perkins, too, will be a steady force in this league for a very long time.
Yeah, a couple knocks on both guys. Creed, his arms were a little bit on the short side, I think Morris said. And then when it comes to Ronnie Perkins, he for a DN now, for a 4-3 DN, he's a little bit light in the pants. All right. He probably needs to thicken up a little bit to play that every down defensive end. And the other thing about Ronnie was coaches, general managers, they're going to ask him about the suspension. And he said he wants to see it. It's just part of the process. It's not like it's a black cloud hanging over his head, but it's just part of the process. They're going to ask him about it, and if he comes across as honest and forthright, dependable, trustworthy, all that kind of stuff, then they'll move past it really quick. If he struggles with his answer, that's when it becomes maybe a possibly little red flag. I don't think he's going to struggle with his answer. He's answered it in the media. He's probably rehearsed it a million times. So, biggest news of this past week, at least according to the old Google Analytics, Ryan, Bob Stoops took another football job. What? At Fox Sports. Calm down. He's going to replace old Herb, who is not well enough to coach Texas, but apparently is well enough to coach Jacksonville. Anyway, Ryan, instead of Stoops spending his Saturdays watching his son Drake catch passes at OU, like he said he wanted to do, he's going to fly to Los Angeles every week and talk ball with Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and Brady Quinn and everybody's favorite studio host for soccer, Rob Stone. I love Rob Stone. How do you think Bob Stoops will do, Ryan?
First off, I totally forgot that Rob Stone's involved in a Big Noon Kickoff, and I just got excited all over again because Rob Stone is truly the best. I think that Bob will be great. He can kind of lean into like Urban Meyer was. He was the straight man on the show. He just broke down football, gave you great insight, and was personable enough, which all these elite coaches are with how recruiting goes. He was personable enough to get by, makes you look past, some of the health issues, things like that. Because I was as skeptical as any coming to Big Noon Kickoff, and I really enjoyed it. I think Bob Stoops is going to be a great fit. And look, I think that I can speak for everyone when we are looking forward to see what point in the season does Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush feel comfortable enough working alongside Coach Stoops to mention that national championship game. I think that'll be the litmus test of you'll know that they've really hit their stride when they feel comfortable throwing all the punches across the desk.
If they're buddies, sure, they'll do it. If they're doing like some pre-show kind of repartee back and forth, and somebody says something and Bob gives them that look, it's not going to go well, and they better not bring it up on air. Man, Yeah, that could get funny. I'm going to watch. I can't say this was unexpected. I figured Bob would take a TV gig eventually. I always figured he'd do it after Drake got done playing, but here's the deal. Urban Meyer unexpectedly jumps to the NFL, right? There's a job open at Fox. Their biggest analyst job in the studio suddenly open. Fox throws a big pile of cash at Bob Stoops. This window was going to close if he didn't take it right now, so he took it. You can't blame him there, I guess, whether you're a big dad guy, football dad guy or what. Ryan, I think Bob's going to be really good on TV. He's a lot funnier in real life, trust me, than he comes across at press conferences. He just is. He's very engaging. He's going to be able to engage the viewer. And if he's forthright about what he's doing, he's going to break down some aspects of the game as Bob Stoops can do, and people are going to understand it, and they're going to enjoy it, and it's going to be fun. But one of the questions that came up early on was, hey, he's taking a job at Fox. Is he going to be critical of other coaches? Because honestly, that's never been Bob's style. My immediate reaction to that question was he'll do just what Urban Meyer did. He'll be critical where it's fair to be critical, and he'll be fair when it may seem like it's time to be too critical. He knows how to do that. He's not dumb. But if Dabo Swinney does something stupid, right, Bob's going to have a go at him. And if David Shaw does something stupid, Bob's going to have a go. And if Steve Sarkisian does something dumb, you better believe Bob's going to jump on that. Why wouldn't you? Which, if you think about it now, he's keeping his job as Joe C's special assistant. So as an employee of the university, that might come across maybe as a little bit of conflict of interest. The Texas coach does something stupid. You're going to jump right down. That might rankle some people. But I guarantee you this, in writing, with my name signed right by it, he's not going to be critical of Lincoln Riley, ever. I thought of that immediately. I thought, the first time Lincoln missteps or the first time Lincoln, plays the wrong guy and it's obvious or whatever. I don't care. Bob doesn't, he's not going to say anything bad about Lincoln Riley. He's not going to criticize. He's not going to say, I would have done this. Lincoln should have done that. He's just not going to. And then like the next day or a couple days later, he tells Jason Kersey that very same thing. He's not going there. And then he throws it out there that if Lincoln, think about it, Lincoln's not going to give him any reason to be. Okay. We'll see about that. Obviously Lincoln's a hell of a coach, but he's human, right? But no, Bob won't go, knee deep in Lincoln's dookie shoot. As my old coach used to have to be with me all the time when I was in high school because I was an idiot. But Lincoln's in that Bob Stoops inner circle, and those people, they're kind of untouchable to Bob. They're like made men in the mob, okay? You get it? And Bob's never going to come at them with barrels blazing, and he shouldn't have to. He's not going to have to. That's more important to him, the relationships that he's built over the years, than picking up street cred with college football fans on Fox. So I think Bob's going to be really good. As a studio analyst, I wonder if he's going to be able to communicate as much as he knows, if he's going to be able to communicate concisely. Because when you get to talking ball, sometimes you get lost in the weeds. And people who don't talk ball all the time, goes right over their heads. Anyway, one more football item. At the Regents meeting last week, Joe Harrah's and Joe C. both said they fully intend to have the stadium full this fall. Now, Ryan, the last thing in this world needs right now is a bunch of super spreaders coming in the fall. But we got the vaccine now. We seem to be getting on top of this thing. Do you think, just because they opened the stadium, that we're going to see sellouts again? Or do you think that what Bob Bowlesby told us last week, that there's a psychology of public assembly at play here, and that may be changing, and you don't know who you're sitting next to, and it probably doesn't matter who you're sitting next to if you know him or not. You might not want to sit that close to him, even if you do know him. Some people are going to be cautious. Some people are going to be scared, and some people just won't give a damn, Ryan. You think there's going to be full stadiums?
John, not only do I think there's going to be full stadiums, I think it's more likely that you have people rushing the gates trying to get in who don't have tickets than you have less fans than the capacity. Look, I had the good fortune of, for most of this football season, when I wasn't up in the press box hanging out with you guys doing the job, I was in the stands amongst the fans, being able to take in this very unique season that way. And Look, once you got in the stadium, people were very content to just glob together, get as close to the field as possible, especially as the magnitude of the games, I think especially about that Bedlam game, got bigger and bigger. It did not feel like it was just 25% capacity. It just felt like, now, not saying that quantifiably it's any different, but it felt like there were more than the 25% fans in there for that Bedlam matchup. So, look, John, it's Oklahoma football. Like, there's going to be, if you tell them that 100,000 people can show up, 100,000 people are going to show up, especially after many people haven't been able to see their Sooners in person for over a year. So, look, by every indication, by every metric, it looks like the vaccine's doing its job, and it sounds like there's going to be plenty of shots on the way that by September, everyone who will want it, fingers crossed nothing happens, but it looks like everyone who will want it will be able to hop in there. So I feel like it'll be a thing if you feel comfortable without being vaccinated. If you're one of those people, that's cool, fine. You'll be in there anyway. And if not, you've got the vaccine, you feel safe, secure, all that stuff. Like, I don't see a reason why it's not going to be full stadiums unless there's just some sort of different strain variant that we don't know about or anything like that sends the world into another wave of lockdown, which if that happens, John, like, yikes. I'm not going to be a happy camper. I'm not staying hunkered down for another year. It's just not happening.
I will, if that happens, I will rewind The Walking Dead and watch it all again just to get some pointers. Because if that happens again, man, society is going to start to crumble. I hope we get full stadiums. I really do. Players deserve it. Think about it. Players deserve it. Having just that atmosphere in college football. And you know who else deserves it? The fans deserve it. The fans deserve it. True. But we're not there yet. We got to get there. And you know what else we'll do? We'll let Joe C. and them figure it out. Ryan, we're probably running over, but we got to give the people what they want. The only real question that I have about softball is, and it's probably more serious than not, do you think they'll lose a game this year? They're 18-0 right now. They got 14 run rules. I think there's a chance that pitching and defense lets them down at some point, but when you're scoring 15 runs a game, does that even matter? This might be Patty Gasso's best team ever, and she's not exactly downplaying that idea, Ryan. That should tell you something.
Yeah, it's one of those things that if there was ever going to be an Oklahoma team that ran the table, it would be this one. The Big 12, though, John, it's a lot better this year than it has been in years past. The Oklahoma State Cowgirls, they're up there into the top 10. Texas was rolling early on. Like, I just think that I know I'm really going out on a limb here. There will come a time when the Sooners drop a game. But honestly, John, until we get to the Women's College World Series where championships are won, I'm more interested in this new promotion that the softball and baseball teams are running this year. They're calling it, I think, the Sooner Launch Pad. Basically, it's for donors. They can pledge. I'm going to pledge X number of dollars for every single home run the team hits. John, the Sooners are at 61 home runs. Do you think they projected this kind of production out of the long ball when they said, sure, I'll sign up for $100 a home run? Can they call the university and say, I'm going to have to scale this back a little bit because this is insane what you guys are doing?
I think the school probably anticipated it. I think Patty probably told the promoters, hey, we're going to hit a lot of home runs this year. I don't think the fans anticipated 60 now after last night, 66 home runs. Just ridiculous. You can listen to the SI Sooners podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts for real. Or on your Amazon-enabled device, just say, Alexa, play the SI Sooners podcast. We're on there, and it's cool. Go to our website, allsooners.com. You can listen right there on our embedded player. You can listen on your phone, your tablet, or your computer. Or you can always watch the video version on any of your devices on my YouTube channel, which is John Hoover Media. Thanks for hanging out on our very special Thursday show. For Ryan Chapman, I'm John Hoover. See you guys.